All right, you're watching Liquid Lunch on Biz TV. John Tabacco has a well-deserved day off at a golf course somewhere. You want to talk about a sport that is just totally pointless and that I just totally don't get. It's golf. I know people are all into golf. People love it. They plan vacations around it. They plan weeks they got to golf with this person, got to golf with that one. I find this to be the most boring thing in the world. I know it's tough. I know people really enjoy it. I'm not knocking it. I'm all for people doing whatever they want. But you talk about the amount of time that goes into hanging around on the golf course. I would rather do anything else. I'd rather sleep. I'd rather walk around. I'd rather meditate. I'd rather watch a movie. I'd rather read. I'd rather pray. I'd do anything else in the world other than hang around a golf course. But that's why John Tabacco is John Tabacco. Two people that are joining me in not golfing today are David Eisenbach, a presidential historian, Columbia University professor, and former candidate for New York City public advocate, and my friend Jadan Horyn, who is a well-regarded conservative commentator, contributor to Metropolitan Magazine, and has actually been bold enough to invite my wife and I over to dinner in a couple of weeks. So we'll see how that goes. Gentlemen, how are you?
Very good. Well,
so, David, let me begin with you. The fight seems to be going full force over Ruth Bader Ginsburg's Supreme Court seat. Now, all the Republicans that said we can't fill this seat 4 years ago are saying let's fill it. All the Democrats that said we must fill this seat 4 years ago are all saying we can't fill it, we can't fill it. How do you see this playing out?
it's politics, pure and simple, and it's actually very scary. The Supreme Court was one of the last institutions where there was legitimacy and credibility and confidence with the majority of the American public. That confidence is now called into question at the absolute worst time, when it is highly likely that this court is going to pick the next president of the United States with decisions relating to what votes get counted on the absentee voting.
Jadan, what do you think? How do you see this playing out?
I appreciate my friend David saying that it was one of the last vestiges of legitimacy. I don't know if that was legitimacy with taking prayer out of schools or Roe v. Wade or Bush v. Gore or Citizens United, because I feel like both the left and the right look at the court and have not found it to be legitimate. But I think this point is taken that this is about power over principle. And we know that both parties do this. And this is what the American people are sick of. And so I think regardless of what happens, which will likely be a confirmation by, the justice that's nominated by the president, I think the American people are going to find that they will no longer and have no longer really trusted their politicians, including the ones that say they're against the system like Trump, to deliver benefits for the vast majority of the American people. And I think that's really, really dangerous for our country.
Let me ask you about the electoral implications. You know, we've seen fundraising for both Democratic groups and Republican groups skyrocket over the last week. A lot of people are saying, well, anybody that was a Trump skeptic that, is not sure if they were going to vote on him but wants conservative justices, this is going to motivate them. I've heard the same thing on the left. What do you think the net impact of this vacancy is in terms of the presidential election, Jadan?
So 4 years ago, when Justice Scalia died, we saw the impact was to drive Republicans to the polls, especially since that would have changed the fundamental dynamics of the court. I don't think that does that in the same way for Republicans this time around. I think it is a severe miscalculation to believe that it will. Certainly, it is a longstanding goal of Republicans to grab control of the court, and they can do that post-election in a lame duck, and it's been done many times. But I really do believe this will energize voters on the left who absolutely think that Biden is a ridiculous nominee and bring them out because they fear a court that could roll back certain rulings and rights, such as the right to choose and gay rights, that fear-mongering on the left from interest groups has done. So I really think it's going to motivate the left. I really do.
David, very interesting to see Jadan say that this could be a net winner electorally, and I hate to couch the death of a person in these kind of terms, for Biden. What do you think? Do you concur?
I think that the left is energized enough just being anti-Trump. I think the most significant impact is going to be on the prospect of overturning Roe v. Wade with Latinos. Latinos, surprisingly, are more in favor of Trump than any of us imagined they would be. He's polling very well with them. If now on the issue of the right to life now comes in, that could break in his favor. And that's another wild card in this insane election.
Very interesting. It seems like the Republican is saying it's going to help the Democrats more. The Democrat is saying this may help the Republicans more. So that's one of the things that's about this show is so great. You never know what you're going to get. Let me ask you, David, let's say the Republicans do some version of what Jadan just described, and let's say they lose the Senate and the presidency, and they go forward with confirming a Trump nominee after they've lost both the presidency and the Senate. There's been some speculation that Schumer and the Democrats may look to pack the court by expanding the number of House seats. Some have even suggested they would push for statehood for D.C. and Puerto Rico to ensure a permanent Democratic majority. What do you see happening if a lame duck Senate and a lame duck president confirms a Trump nominee?
I think then all bets are off. We're definitely going to see the end of the filibuster. I could see an increase in the packing of the court because big issues of Roe v. Wade, the overturning of Roe v. Wade, the prospect of that, that's a major kind of power base for the Democratic Party. They can't allow that to happen. They would stop it by packing the court. And we're really going to see a different American republic in the next year. I just don't see things going back to normal.
What do you think, Jadan?
I mean, David is a presidential historian, so he's quite aware of the fact that when the Federalist Party lost power with Adams and it turned over to Jefferson, that lame duck Congress and president chose to appoint a large amount of judges to the federal court system that later provided a great deal of consternation to the Democratic Republicans. I don't think that this is anything new in American politics. We have lame duck, which occurs and happens and frustrates the party coming into power. But I don't think the response is going to be to usurp the norm even more and pack the court, especially since the entire argument of the Biden-Harris ticket is a return to normalcy. And I think jettisoning that, I think, would be disastrous for the Democrats in 2022.
All right,
the public would not look kindly on the complete destruction of all norms because of Trump.
Tell me what you gentlemen are expecting in Tuesday's debate. Predictions, hopes, fears. What would you like to see? Jadan, I'll begin with you.
I would like to see them actually articulate what their vision for the next 4 years should be, not why the other person is terrible for the country. I think the American people really deserve to know right now, in the middle of this pandemic, in the middle of the economic crash, in the middle of such great discord and riots and protests, what the plan is to bring the nation together, to return us to prosperity and to return us to peace. That's what I want to see. Well, we see that no. I think we're going to see Biden lampooned by Trump for his idiocy and his malprops. And I think Biden talking about how Trump is, essentially a fascist dictator, which certainly is the view of the left.
Yeah, and then along with all that name calling, there will be questions about each other's cognitive abilities.
For sure.
This is not going to be a kumbaya moment for the left and the right on Tuesday.
All right. Final question. How about the investigation or the Senate GOP report on Joe Biden? Really on Hunter Biden. Is this a big deal, or is this just more partisan hand-wringing?
It's a big deal in the sense of it exposes the influence peddling that both parties and leaders in both parties are guilty of and engaged in every day. It's shameful that Joe Biden allowed this to happen, and he knew his son was trading on his name. Nothing in the report specifically implicates him, so I think he pretty much remains at arm's length, let's say.
All right. And how about you, Jadan? Have you seen the Senate Republican report? What do you make of it?
And I share David's, kind of disgust with this whole process. This is exactly what the American people have said that they are disgusted with, whether it was the Clintons, whether it was the Bushes, now it's the Bidens. Certainly, many have accused the Trump family of profiting, and they find that disgusting. And yet here we actually have a demonstration that the sitting vice president, at the time he was vice president's son, profited from his position. I think it is incredibly damaging. I don't know if it's damaging to Biden in the sense that it really doesn't buy him much. but it is certainly damaging in the sense that once again, it erodes the American people's faith that their politicians are there to serve them as opposed to their own personal interests.
Jadan, we're going to have to leave it there. Congratulations on the new hairstyle. David and Jadan, I'll see you both very soon. When we come back, we will talk with the bail bond queen of New York and New Jersey, Michelle Esquenazi. Is there a connection between the anarchy on the streets and bail reform? We'll find out. You're watching Liquid Lunch on Biz TV. I'm Frank Morano.